Deep beneath the towering spires of the Imperium's Grand Hive, cities lies a world shrouded in darkness, chaos, and despair. The Underhive, an immense labyrinth of decay and treachery, stretches endlessly below, where sunlight never penetrates, and the rule of law is but a faint whisper drowned by the clamor of desperation. This sprawling abyss of humanity is as much a product of neglect as it is of necessity, a byproduct of civilization's relentless march toward industrial dominance and survival. It is a place both feared and forgotten, yet it persists, a grim testament to the resilience of life in the face of insurmountable odds. To understand the Underhive is to understand the rawest, most unfiltered facets of human existence in the 41st millennium. It is a world governed by primal instincts, where survival takes precedence over morality, and the concept of hope is as rare as clean air. From the vast machinery ruins that creak under their age, to the fetid pools of toxic runoff pooling in its depths, the Underhive is alive in its own grotesque way. It teems with life, but not the kind found in the flourishing fields of an agri-world or the disciplined ranks of the Imperial Guard. Here, life manifests as scavengers, mutants, outlaws, and those who have been cast out by the rigid structures of the Imperium above. The Underhive is more than a physical place. It is a state of existence, a microcosm where the best and worst of humanity are distilled to their extremes. It represents the Imperium's failure to uplift all its subjects, serving as a stark reminder of the fragile balance between the masses that toil and the elites who prosper. In this pitiless underworld, individuals are born, live, and die without ever glimpsing the sky. Generations pass without the faintest hope of ascension, their stories lost in the choking smog that permeates every crevice. Yet, despite its squalor, the Underhive is not a monolith of despair. It is a realm of unceasing conflict and evolution, a crucible where alliances are forged and broken in the blink of an eye. Every corner hides a secret, and every shadow harbors danger. Amid the chaos, whispers circulate of those who dared to escape its grasp. These are tales of ingenuity, defiance, and sheer willpower, stories that ignite a flicker of curiosity and disbelief among the downtrodden inhabitants. To ask if anyone can escape the Underhive is to ask if a soul can defy destiny in a universe designed to crush individuality. The question lingers, tantalizing yet cruel, for escape is no mere act of fleeing. It is a battle against a system designed to ensnare and obliterate. To truly understand the enormity of such a feat, one must first delve into the intricate web of power, conflict, and despair that defines this forsaken realm. Only then can the enormity of escape and its implications be fully grasped. Thus begins our journey into the Underhive, a descent into the heart of darkness where every step forward risks deeper entanglement in its suffocating grip. Who dares to defy the odds? What drives them to seek freedom? And most crucially, what lies beyond the boundaries of the Underhive should one ever break free? These are questions that demand answers, but not before we peel back the layers of this labyrinthine world and explore the forces that rule it. In the depths of the Underhive, escape is not merely a dream. It is a rebellion against inevitability. But in a galaxy that thrives on oppression and control, is such a rebellion destined for victory, or doomed to be forgotten? The Underhive operates as a chaotic ecosystem, a world within a world where power dynamics are shaped by necessity, violence, and cunning. It is a realm of stark contrasts, where brutal warlords clash with scheming outcasts, and fragile alliances are as fleeting as the lives of those who form them. Among the vast network of its denizens, several factions and figures define the grim hierarchy and play pivotal roles in shaping the Underhive's brutal existence. At the apex of the Underhive's fractured power structure are the gangs, the lifeblood of this subterranean world. Each gang dominates its territory with an iron fist, defending it fiercely against rivals while exploiting every resource available to maintain its fragile dominance. They are not simply groups of armed thugs. They represent the distilled essence of the Underhive's anarchy, each gang with its own identity, values, and codes of conduct. From the technological scavengers wielding salvaged equipment to the savage brutes who rely on sheer strength, these gangs embody the ruthless survivalist ethos of their environment. Behind these gangs often lies the influence of larger organizations operating within the Hive City above. The noble houses, vast power blocks with far-reaching influence, frequently use the Underhive as a resource and battleground. These houses supply weapons, manipulate alliances, and stir conflict to achieve their own agendas. The Underhive, in their eyes, is a testing ground, a tool to solidify their dominance in the spires far above. Their representatives, often shadowy figures known as fixers or enforcers, weave intricate webs of control to maintain their grip on this volatile domain. Adding another layer of complexity to the Underhive's landscape are the criminal syndicates, larger and more organized than the gangs. These groups are the architects of smuggling rings, illicit trade networks, and black market economies that permeate every corner of the Underhive. They specialize in trafficking forbidden goods, from illegal weaponry to exotic narcotics, capitalizing on the desperation of the inhabitants. These syndicates often transcend the boundaries of the Hive City itself, connecting the Underhive to broader interplanetary networks of corruption and greed. Not all power in the Underhive comes from strength or influence. Some derive it from fear. This is epitomized by the Scavengers of forbidden knowledge, mysterious figures who delve into ancient ruins and unearth arcane technologies best left undisturbed. These individuals, or small cult-like groups, often wield power disproportionate to their size, as their secrets can command both awe and dread. Their presence serves as a reminder that the Underhive is as much a domain of forgotten pasts as it is a battleground for the present. Within this intricate web of control and chaos, there exists an official presence, if only in name. The Adeptus Arbites and local Hive law enforcement represent the Imperium's token attempt to exert order over the Underhive. While their presence is sparse and often symbolic, their rare interventions can unleash devastating consequences, disrupting the fragile balance of power. Yet, even these enforcers are not immune to the corrupting influence of the Underhive, with many officers engaging in covert dealings to bolster their own positions or line their pockets. A grim yet vital faction in this domain are the mutants and outcasts, those deemed unworthy of life in the Upper Hive. Marginalized and persecuted, they have carved out a place for themselves in the Underhive, surviving on the fringes of this already brutal world. While often underestimated or shunned, their numbers and resilience make them a force that cannot be ignored. They form their own communities, often allying with or opposing the dominant gangs based on the shifting tides of power. In addition to the tangible factions, the Underhive is haunted by intangible forces, rumors, legends, and whispered names that carry weight equal to any weapon. Tales of spectral hunters, ancient machines reawakening, or monstrous predators stalking the shadows serve as both warnings and challenges for those daring to traverse its depths. These myths, often exaggerated or misunderstood, influence the decisions of even the most hardened inhabitants. Finally, it is important to recognize the individuals who rise above the masses, shaping the Underhive's narrative in unique ways. These are the charismatic gang leaders, the ruthless crime lords, and the enigmatic wanderers who defy the expectations of their environment. While their identities and methods vary, their shared characteristic is an unyielding will to survive and dominate in a world designed to crush all who linger too long. The Underhive is a living organism, its factions and figures constantly shifting in a brutal dance of power, survival, and ambition. Every player, from the humblest scavenger to the most influential crime boss, contributes to the volatile equilibrium that defines this shadowy realm. To escape its grasp requires navigating these treacherous currents, where allies can become enemies in an instant, and every decision carries the weight of survival itself. The existence of the Underhive is not a result of a single event, but rather the culmination of millennia of neglect, exploitation, and the relentless march of progress within the Imperium of Man. To understand how this sprawling, perilous environment came to be, one must examine the foundations of hive cities themselves and the societal pressures that shaped their descent into chaos. The Underhive is a byproduct of survival on an unimaginable scale, where necessity and ambition intertwined to create a living nightmare. Hive cities, towering structures that pierce the heavens, were originally conceived as bastions of human ingenuity and resilience. Built to house billions, they were the answer to overpopulation, industrial demand, and planetary colonization. These megastructures were designed to sustain themselves through vertical integration, with the upper levels reserved for the elite and the lower tiers serving as the backbone of industrial output. Over time, the unrelenting pressures of production and survival created layers of societal stratification, each tier representing a descent into squalor. The Underhive emerged as the inevitable consequence of this stratification. The lower levels, initially vital for resource extraction and waste management, gradually became overrun by the refuse of the hive above. Industrial waste, toxic runoff, and discarded technology accumulated over centuries, transforming these once functional areas into a sprawling wasteland. This decay was exacerbated by the perpetual demands of the Imperium, which prioritized output over sustainability. When sections of the hive became too polluted or damaged to repair, they were simply abandoned, left to rot and fester far from the gaze of those in power. As the upper tiers of the hive prospered, the lower levels suffered a different fate. Overcrowding forced countless individuals into the Underhive, where there was no oversight, no order, and no law. Refugees, exiles, and the desperate sought shelter in these forsaken depths, forming rudimentary communities in an environment hostile to human life. Over generations, these communities grew and adapted to the harsh realities of their surroundings, developing their own cultures, languages, and traditions distinct from the hive above. What had started as a refugee became a prison, a place where the prospect of escape faded with each passing generation. Economics and exploitation further entrenched the Underhive's existence. While the upper hive thrived on trade and production, the Underhive became a source of raw, unregulated labor and resources. Gangs and criminal syndicates capitalized on the lawlessness, extracting wealth through illicit industries such as scavenging, smuggling, and the manufacture of forbidden goods. The noble houses and industrial leaders, recognizing the potential profitability of these activities, turned a blind eye to the suffering below. Their apathy ensured the Underhive's continued degradation, as its inhabitants became little more than expendable tools in a vast, uncaring system. Beyond economics, the political and social structures of the Imperium also contributed to the Underhive's creation. The Imperium's rigid hierarchy leaves no room for upward mobility, and its reliance on fear and oppression ensures that those who fall to the bottom remain there. The Underhive became a repository for the unwanted, mutants, heretics, criminals, and anyone deemed unfit for life in the upper hive. Entire populations were cast down to these depths, creating a volatile mix of individuals united only by their shared suffering. The constant influx of outcasts perpetuated the cycle of violence and instability, ensuring the Underhive's place as a crucible of misery. The technological decay of the Imperium also plays a significant role in the Underhive's origins. As humanity's knowledge regressed over the millennia, the ability to maintain or repair the hive's infrastructure diminished. Entire sections of the hive were lost to malfunctions or catastrophic failures, plunging into darkness and disrepair. What was once cutting-edge machinery became dangerous relics, and the inhabitants of the Underhive were left to navigate a world filled with broken systems and unpredictable hazards. The loss of technological understanding not only contributed to the Underhive's physical state, but also shaped the mindset of its inhabitants, who came to view technology with a mix of reverence and fear. Despite these grim realities, the Underhive did not emerge without purpose. Its creation, though unintentional, serves the Imperium in several ways. It is a pressure valve, a place to funnel the discontented and the deviant, removing them from the tightly controlled upper hive. It is also a resource, both for the materials scavenged from its depths and the illicit activities it enables. Finally, it is a deterrent, a living example of what awaits those who defy the Imperium's strictures or fail to meet its standards. The Underhive is a product of neglect, but it is also a tool, a grim instrument of control and exploitation. The path to this state of affairs is long and complex, shaped by forces far beyond the understanding of the Underhive's inhabitants. Yet, within this context, one truth emerges. The Underhive is not merely a place, but a manifestation of humanity's darkest tendencies. Its existence reflects the Imperium's values, its priorities, and its failures. It is a world where survival is a victory in itself, and the concept of escape represents not just a physical act, but a challenge to the very systems that created it. The life and events within the Underhive unfold in a relentless cycle of conflict, survival, and adaptation. It is a world in constant flux, where every moment is shaped by the need to endure and navigate the treacherous environment. The key events that define the existence of those trapped in the Underhive reflect the harsh realities of a life with no safety net, no guarantees, and no respite. Daily life in the Underhive is a battle against its many dangers. The struggle begins with the basics, finding food, water, and shelter. Resources are scarce, and those that exist are often contaminated or fought over fiercely. The inhabitants must scavenge through endless heaps of industrial waste or barter with those who control access to essential goods. Gangs often control these supplies, demanding loyalty or payment in exchange for the bare minimum required to survive. For many, hunger is a constant companion, and desperation can drive even the most cautious individuals into perilous situations. Violence is an ever-present reality. The Underhive is a battleground where gangs clash over territory, resources, and reputation. These conflicts are brutal, often erupting without warning and leaving devastation in their wake. A single spark, a disputed trade, a broken alliance, or even a perceived slight can ignite a war that engulfs entire sectors. For those not directly involved in the fighting, survival means staying out of the way, but even this is no guarantee of safety. Innocent bystanders are often caught in the crossfire, their lives considered expendable in the pursuit of power. Amid the chaos, trade flourishes as a means of survival and advancement. The Underhive operates as an unregulated economy where anything and everything has a price. Weapons, ammunition, food, and even lives are traded in a shadowy market that thrives on the desperation of its participants. Smugglers and traders act as intermediaries, connecting isolated communities and providing access to goods that might otherwise be unattainable. However, this economy is fraught with danger, as deceit and betrayal are as common as honest deals. To trade is to take a risk, but it is a risk many are forced to take to survive. The environment itself is as much an adversary as the people within it. The Underhive is a maze of collapsing structures, unstable machinery, and toxic hazards. Entire sections can crumble without warning, burying everything and everyone in their path. Industrial byproducts and centuries of neglect have poisoned the air and water, and diseases run rampant among the population. The lack of medical care means that even minor injuries or illnesses can prove fatal. For many, the greatest challenge is simply enduring the conditions long enough to see another day. Amid this bleak existence, certain events stand out as defining moments. Territorial shifts, where one gang overthrows another, can redraw the map of the Underhive and disrupt the fragile balance of power. Massive raids or purges by law enforcement, though rare, bring chaos and devastation, often targeting entire communities in an attempt to reassert control. Occasionally, rumors of treasure or forgotten technology, draw large numbers of scavengers to a specific area, leading to violent competition and bloodshed. These events ripple through the Underhive, affecting everyone regardless of their involvement. The dream of escape is one of the few unifying aspects of life in the Underhive, though the methods and motivations vary widely. Some seek to ascend to the higher levels of the hive, believing that life above offers safety and opportunity. Others aim to flee the hive entirely, dreaming of a life beyond its oppressive walls. These aspirations drive many of the actions and decisions of the Underhive's inhabitants, from forming alliances to attempting daring raids on heavily guarded areas. However, the path to escape is fraught with challenges, as the powerful factions that control the Underhive have no interest in allowing anyone to leave without paying a price. Religious fervor and superstition also play a role in shaping events. The harsh conditions have given rise to a multitude of beliefs and cults, each offering its own form of salvation or explanation for the suffering. Some preach endurance, promising reward in the afterlife, while others advocate rebellion, claiming divine support for their cause. These movements can inspire hope and unity, but they can also lead to fanaticism and conflict, as competing ideologies clash over whose vision of salvation is true. The Underhive is a crucible where events unfold in a raw and unfiltered form, shaped by the primal instincts of its inhabitants. It is a place where every choice carries weight, every action has consequences, and every moment is a test of survival. Those who live there must navigate not only the physical dangers, but also the intricate web of social and political dynamics that define this unforgiving world. While the specifics of their struggles may differ, the underlying reality remains the same. In the Underhive, life is a constant fight against forces determined to crush all who dare to hope for more. The pivotal moment in the question of escaping the Underhive revolves around the realization of what escape truly entails and the decision of whether it is even possible. For most inhabitants, the Underhive is all they have ever known, a world of endless chaos, violence, and decay. Yet, for those who dare to dream of freedom, the turning point often comes with the recognition that escape is not merely a physical act, but a defiance of the very systems that hold them captive. The realization of this duality transforms the pursuit of escape from a straightforward goal into a deeply existential challenge. The key event that catalyzes this understanding is the rare occurrence of someone attempting and appearing to succeed in escaping the Underhive. Such moments are rare, but when they occur, they send shockwaves through the labyrinthine depths, inspiring both hope and fear among the populace. These events usually begin with rumors, whispered tales of an individual or a small group who has managed to breach the unseen barriers and ascend to the hive above or even beyond it. These stories are often embellished or distorted, but they ignite a fire in those who hear them, planting the seed of possibility. One of the defining factors in these escapes is the preparation and resourcefulness of those attempting them. Unlike the endless skirmishes and struggles for survival that characterize life in the Underhive, planning an escape requires foresight, patience, and an understanding of the myriad dangers that lie between the depths and freedom. The act of escape often hinges on a single critical decision, whether to trust others or go it alone. Trust can open doors, providing access to resources and information, but it is also a gamble that can lead to betrayal and ruin. The role of technology or external intervention in these escapes is another turning point. Occasionally, the intervention of a powerful force, whether a rogue trader, a secretive benefactor, or even an external conflict spilling into the Underhive, creates an opportunity for those bold enough to seize it. These moments of chaos disrupt the established order, allowing cracks to form in the otherwise impenetrable barriers that define the Underhive. Such events are fleeting and dangerous, requiring split-second decisions that can mean the difference between success and failure. For those who manage to breach the Underhive's confines, the realization often dawns that freedom comes at a cost. Ascending to the higher levels of the hive or escaping its boundaries entirely means navigating new dangers and prejudices. The stigma of having come from the Underhive is not easily shed, and many find themselves ostracized or hunted even after escaping. This revelation becomes the ultimate turning point, the understanding that true escape requires not just leaving the Underhive, but finding a way to forge a new identity and purpose in a world that is often just as unforgiving. The ultimate reason why escape from the Underhive remains so rare lies in the intricate systems designed to keep its inhabitants contained. The power dynamics, economic structures, and societal hierarchies of the Hive City are all built on the premise that the Underhive serves a purpose, as a dumping ground for the unwanted, a source of expendable labor, and a buffer against chaos. These systems ensure that any attempt to escape is met with resistance, whether through direct intervention or the insurmountable challenges posed by the journey itself. The rare successes, therefore, are not just acts of defiance, but symbols of what is possible in the face of overwhelming odds. The critical decision point for anyone seeking to escape the Underhive ultimately lies in accepting the risks and the uncertainties that come with leaving everything behind. It is a moment of reckoning, where the individual must confront not only the external challenges, but also their own doubts, fears, and hopes. This decision is the fulcrum upon which the entire question of escape balances, shaping not only the fate of the individual, but also the perception of possibility for those who remain behind. In the Underhive, escape is not merely an act of physical departure. It is a moment of profound transformation, where the individual steps beyond the confines of their reality and dares to envision something more. It is this act of vision, as much as the escape itself, that defines the turning point, a moment that reshapes the very nature of what it means to live in the Underhive. The existence of the Underhive and the rare instances of attempted escapes have far-reaching consequences that ripple throughout the Imperium, impacting its societal, economic, and political structures. These influences are subtle but pervasive, shaping perceptions, policies, and even the collective psyche of those who inhabit the higher levels of the Hive cities and beyond. One of the most significant impacts is the reinforcement of the Imperium's rigid hierarchical structure. The Underhive serves as a grim reminder to the populace of what awaits those who fail to meet the standards of the Hive's brutal economy and societal expectations. It becomes a symbol of failure and punishment, a place where the discarded masses toil in darkness. The rare stories of individuals escaping this fate are often suppressed or dismissed by those in power, as they threaten to inspire rebellion or hope among the oppressed. For the elite, the very existence of the Underhive and the near impossibility of escape serve to maintain their dominance, ensuring that the masses remain compliant and fearful of falling to the bottom. The economic implications of the Underhive are equally profound. It functions as a self-sustaining ecosystem of labor and resource exploitation, fueling industries that support the Hive and, by extension, the Imperium. The scavenged materials, illicit goods, and black market economies originating from the Underhive contribute to the larger machinery of the Imperium's economy. Any disruption caused by attempts to escape, such as power shifts within gangs, raids by law enforcement, or external interventions, can destabilize these delicate systems. In extreme cases, such disruptions might even spill into the Hive above, causing shortages, unrest, or increased demands on already overstretched resources. On a broader scale, the Underhive contributes to the cultural and psychological fabric of the Imperium. The tales of its horrors, passed down through generations, become part of the collective consciousness, shaping how people view their place in the universe. For those in the Upper Hive, the Underhive is a cautionary tale, a constant reminder of the chaos that exists beneath their feet. For the inhabitants of the Underhive, it is both a prison and a proving ground, where survival itself is an act of defiance. The rare instances of escape become legendary, their details exaggerated or mythologized, feeding into the narratives that define what it means to endure in such a hostile universe. The societal impact is most keenly felt among the Underhive's inhabitants. Every escape attempt, successful or not, reshapes the dynamics of power and hope within its depths. A successful escape can embolden others to dream of freedom, leading to increased resistance, collaboration, or even organized attempts to challenge the status quo. Conversely, failed escapes serve as grim warnings, reinforcing the belief that the Underhive is inescapable and further entrenching the despair that keeps its inhabitants subdued. These shifts in morale can influence the behavior of gangs, alliances, and even the actions of external forces that seek to exploit the Underhive's resources. For the Imperium at large, the Underhive represents a microcosm of its own contradictions. It is a place where the ideals of unity and survival clash with the brutal realities of oppression and decay. The stories of escape, whether celebrated or suppressed, highlight the tension between these opposing forces. They serve as reminders of the resilience and ingenuity of humanity, even in the face of overwhelming adversity, but also underscore the immense barriers imposed by the Imperium's structures. This duality influences not only the inhabitants of the Underhive, but also those who hear of its existence from afar, shaping their perceptions of the Imperium and their place within it. The long-term consequences of the Underhive's existence extend beyond its immediate boundaries. Its role as a repository for the unwanted and the desperate ensures that it remains a source of instability and unpredictability. The rare instances of escape can lead to broader repercussions, such as exposing the inefficiencies or cruelties of the hive system to outside scrutiny. They may also create opportunities for external forces, whether rogue traders, Xenos factions, or even rebel groups, to exploit the Underhive's vulnerabilities for their own gain. In this way, the Underhive's influence reaches far beyond its physical confines, shaping events and decisions on a planetary or even galactic scale. Ultimately, the Underhive's existence and the question of escape highlight the precarious balance upon which the Imperium rests. It is a system designed to function through control, fear, and exploitation, but its reliance on such mechanisms also makes it inherently fragile. The Underhive is a testament to both the resilience and the vulnerability of the human spirit, a place where the struggle for survival becomes a metaphor for the larger struggles faced by humanity in a universe defined by conflict and chaos. The rare flickers of defiance that escape represents serve as both a challenge to the status quo and a reminder of what it means to strive for something greater, even when the odds seem insurmountable. The question of whether anyone can escape the Underhive is steeped in mystery and intrigue, not just because of the physical challenges, but also due to the unique elements surrounding such attempts. These aspects, discussed fervently in fan communities, offer insight into the nuanced interplay of culture, technology, and strategy that shapes the possibility of escape. One of the most captivating topics is the role of hidden pathways and forgotten infrastructure in the Underhive. The labyrinthine expanse of the Underhive contains ancient tunnels, collapsed corridors, and remnants of machinery that once served vital functions. Many of these structures predate the Hive City itself, remnants of forgotten eras or abandoned Imperial projects. Theories abound about secret routes leading to the surface, or even out of the Hive entirely. These paths are often sealed, unstable, or fiercely guarded by those who control the surrounding territory, but they represent one of the few tangible hopes for escape. Stories of individuals uncovering and exploiting these routes to freedom captivate imaginations, even if such attempts are rarely verified. Another significant aspect is the use of scavenged technology and its potential to aid in escape. The Underhive is littered with the debris of centuries, and its inhabitants have developed a unique expertise in salvaging and repurposing what others consider junk. This scavenging culture extends to escape attempts, where ingenuity and resourcefulness become vital. From improvised breathing apparatuses to navigate toxic zones to crude climbing devices fashioned from scrap metal, the role of technology is central to overcoming the physical barriers of the Underhive. Some escapees are said to have unearthed ancient, barely functional vehicles or long-forgotten teleportation devices, though such claims often border on myth. One of the most intriguing discussions among fans revolves around the psychological resilience required to attempt an escape. The Underhive is not just a physical trap, but a mental one, designed to instill hopelessness and submission. Overcoming this mindset is as critical as navigating its dangers. Escaping requires an almost superhuman level of determination, as well as the ability to inspire others or operate entirely in secrecy. The psychological toll on those who try and fail, or even on those who succeed, sparks debates about whether escape is truly liberation or merely trading one form of suffering for another. The role of alliances and betrayal in escape attempts adds another layer of complexity. The Underhive is a place where trust is scarce, and alliances are often temporary and transactional. Planning an escape frequently involves forming uneasy pacts with others who share the same goal. These alliances can provide access to critical resources, manpower, and knowledge, but they are fraught with risk. Betrayal is a common theme in stories of escape, where one party turns on the others for personal gain or to eliminate competition. Such betrayals are not always intentional. Desperation and fear often push individuals to act against their better judgment, creating compelling and tragic narratives. An element that frequently captures fan interest is the role of external interference. Escape attempts often coincide with disruptions caused by outside forces, whether imperial authorities, rogue traders, or other factions. These disruptions create chaos that can be both a curse and a blessing for would-be escapees. While such events often heighten danger and instability, they also provide opportunities to exploit the confusion. Stories of individuals slipping through gaps in security during a crackdown or stowing away on departing vessels fuel speculation about the possibilities offered by external chaos. Cultural and superstitious factors also play a unique role in the question of escape. Many Underhive inhabitants grow up with stories of legendary figures who defied the odds and reached the surface. These tales, though often exaggerated or entirely fictional, serve as both inspiration and cautionary lessons. Some view escape as a near-mythical quest, a journey fraught with peril and requiring divine favor or extraordinary luck. Others dismiss it as a fool's errand, perpetuating the belief that the Underhive is inescapable. These cultural narratives influence how individuals approach the idea of escape, shaping their strategies, expectations, and willingness to take risks. The phenomenon of recurring escape attempts and their impact on the Underhive itself is another fascinating aspect. Each attempt, regardless of its outcome, leaves ripples in the social fabric of the Underhive. These ripples can take the form of increased vigilance by those in power, shifts in gang dynamics, or a renewed sense of hope among the inhabitants. Even failed attempts can inspire others to try, sparking a cycle of defiance that keeps the dream of escape alive. This interplay between individual efforts and the collective psyche of the Underhive adds depth to the broader question of whether escape is possible. Lastly, the question of what lies beyond the Underhive for those who escape is a source of endless speculation. While reaching the surface or the wider galaxy represents freedom in one sense, it also exposes escapes to new challenges. The stigma of their origins, the pursuit of those who wish to maintain control, and the harsh realities of the Imperium's broader society all await those who succeed. For some, the journey to escape becomes more about the act of defiance itself than any promise of a better life beyond. This duality, freedom as both liberation and uncertainty, resonates deeply with fans and reinforces the thematic richness of the Underhive as a setting. These unique aspects combine to make the question of escape from the Underhive a compelling and multifaceted topic, blending physical, psychological, and cultural challenges into a narrative of resilience and determination. It is this complexity that continues to fuel discussion and imagination within the fan community. Among the countless inhabitants of the Underhive, a few extraordinary individuals have risen above the chaos, their actions and motivations cementing their reputations as either heroes or villains. These figures are defined not only by their choices, but by the circumstances that shaped them, embodying the spectrum of human resilience, ambition, and desperation. One of the most celebrated figures among the Underhive's legends is a renegade known simply as Ashrin. Ashrin's story is one of survival against impossible odds, and her name has become synonymous with the dream of escape. Born into one of the most destitute sectors, she displayed an uncanny aptitude for navigation and strategy from a young age, traits that allowed her to avoid the clutches of gang violence and exploitation. Ashrin's goal was clear: to reach the surface and forge a life free of the Underhive's oppression. Her escape attempt involved years of preparation, gathering resources, studying forgotten maps, and forging alliances with unlikely allies. What sets Ashrin apart is not just her determination, but her compassion. Unlike many who focus solely on their own survival, she actively sought to uplift others during her journey. She became a beacon of hope for the downtrodden, inspiring a small but loyal group to follow her. Her leadership skills, combined with an unyielding moral compass, made her both a hero and a target. Her escape attempt, though ultimately successful according to some accounts, came at a great cost, with many of her companions perishing along the way. Ashrin's legacy lives on in the stories whispered among the Underhive's inhabitants, though whether she truly escaped or merely disappeared into the depths is still debated. In stark contrast to Ashrin stands Tovik Ironclaw, a brutal and cunning gang leader whose name strikes fear into the hearts of all who hear it. Tovik's reputation was built on ruthlessness, and his rise to power was marked by a series of calculated betrayals and violent coups. He viewed the Underhive not as a prison, but as a kingdom to be ruled, exploiting its resources and people for his gain. Despite his apparent satisfaction with his dominion, Tovik harbored a secret ambition: to ascend to the higher levels of the Hive and claim a place among the powerful elite. Tovik's escape attempt was driven not by a desire for freedom, but by the promise of power. Using his gang as a stepping stone, he amassed the necessary resources and contacts to stage a daring raid on a secure transport route. His plan was meticulously crafted, leveraging his network of informants and enforcers to bypass the tight security of the Hive's upper layers. However, Tovik's arrogance proved to be his downfall. His underestimation of the Imperial authorities and the betrayal of one of his closest lieutenants led to the failure of his attempt, resulting in a devastating crackdown on his operations. Tovik's fate remains uncertain, but his story serves as a cautionary tale of hubris and unchecked ambition. Another figure of note is Lyra Vane, a scavenger with an uncanny knack for uncovering ancient technology. Lyra's motivations were less grandiose than those of Ashrin or Tovik. Her focus was survival and the pursuit of knowledge. Her discoveries of forgotten mechanisms and artifacts earned her both admiration and envy among the Underhive's inhabitants. Lyra believed that understanding the past was the key to escaping the Underhive, and her attempts to piece together fragments of ancient maps and data became an obsession. Lyra's escape attempt was unconventional. Rather than brute force or alliances, she relied on the very artifacts she uncovered. Her most notable discovery was an ancient half-functional transport pod buried deep within the ruins of an abandoned sector. Lyra's ingenuity allowed her to repair the device partially, though the technology was unstable and fraught with risks. Her attempt to use it as a means of escape ended in tragedy, with the pod malfunctioning and Lyra vanishing without a trace. Her story is remembered as a testament to the dangers of relying on the past to shape the future. On the darker side of the Underhive's legends is a figure known only as the Shadow Broker. Unlike Tovik, who ruled openly, the Shadow Broker operates from the shadows, manipulating events to serve his inscrutable agenda. He is said to control a vast network of informants, spies, and saboteurs, wielding influence over multiple gangs and factions. The Shadow Broker's interest in escape is not personal. Rather, he sees the Underhive as a chessboard, and those who attempt to leave are pieces in his grand game. He is known to aid some escapees while sabotaging others, his motivations known only to himself. The Shadow Broker's enigmatic nature has made him a figure of both fear and fascination. Some view him as a necessary evil, maintaining a fragile balance in the Underhive, while others see him as the ultimate obstacle to freedom. His ability to operate unseen and his mastery of manipulation make him a formidable force, and his actions leave a trail of chaos that reshapes the lives of those he touches. These individuals, whether driven by hope, ambition, or malice, illustrate the extremes of human nature within the Underhive. Their stories, marked by triumphs and tragedies, inspire and caution those who dream of escape. They are the heroes and villains of a world where survival is the only certainty, their legacies shaping the narrative of what it means to defy the Underhive's grasp. The question of whether anyone can truly escape the Underhive is layered with mysteries and theories that fuel debate among fans and lore enthusiasts. These unresolved aspects add depth to the narrative of the Underhive, transforming it into more than just a setting, but a living enigma. One of the most persistent and intriguing mysteries is the fate of those who claim to have escaped. Stories of successful escapees are often fragmented, vague, or contradictory. Some accounts describe individuals who reached the higher levels of the Hive only to vanish into obscurity, while others suggest they were captured or silenced by powerful factions unwilling to allow their freedom to inspire rebellion. The lack of verifiable evidence raises questions. Do escapees deliberately erase their past to avoid persecution, or are they eliminated by unseen forces to maintain the status quo? Theories also abound regarding the existence of hidden exits within the Underhive. Ancient maps, cryptic inscriptions, and whispered rumors suggest that forgotten pathways may lead directly to the surface or even beyond the Hive. These supposed routes are said to predate the Hive City itself, remnants of earlier civilizations or long-lost imperial projects. However, their existence has never been conclusively proven, and every attempt to uncover them has either ended in failure or sparked more speculation. Some believe these pathways are intentionally hidden or destroyed by factions that benefit from the Underhive's isolation. Another point of contention revolves around the role of imperial authorities in controlling the Underhive. Some theorists argue that the Imperium deliberately ensures the Underhive remains inescapable as a method of population control. The notion that the Underhive functions as a containment zone for undesirables, criminals, mutants, and political dissidents raises the possibility that escape attempts are not only discouraged, but actively sabotaged. This leads to the unsettling question: are the barriers to escape entirely natural, or are they systematically enforced by mechanisms unseen and unacknowledged? The influence of rogue traders and external factions in aiding or exploiting escape attempts is another unresolved topic. Rogue traders, with their unique access to forbidden resources and uncharted routes, are occasionally rumored to have smuggled individuals out of the Underhive in exchange for services or valuable artifacts. These tales spark fierce debate, as the motives of rogue traders are notoriously self-serving. Did they genuinely assist escapees, or were these attempts part of larger schemes to destabilize the Hive for profit? The lack of concrete evidence fuels speculation, as does the potential involvement of other factions, from mercenaries to heretical cults, each with their own agendas. The technological aspect of escape also invites speculation. Many believe that advanced relics hidden within the Underhive, relics of the Dark Age of technology or the Great Crusade, could hold the key to breaching its confines. Some theorize that these artifacts are the reason for the Underhive's continued scrutiny by shadowy figures and powerful organizations. Are these relics a potential escape route, or do they represent a danger so profound that they must never be unleashed? The uncertainty surrounding these artifacts makes them a focal point of both hope and fear. The psychological dimension of escape presents another layer of complexity. The question arises: even if one were to physically escape, can they ever truly be free of the Underhive's influence? The years of survival in such a hostile environment leave indelible marks on the psyche, shaping how escapees interact with the world beyond. This gives rise to a chilling theory that the Underhive is not only a physical prison, but a mental one, and that its effects linger long after its inhabitants have left. The trauma, paranoia, and adaptations necessary to survive in the Underhive may render escapes permanently alienated from the world above. Perhaps the most debated topic is whether the Underhive is even escapable in the traditional sense. Some propose that escape is not about physical departure, but about redefining one's existence within its confines. This existential theory challenges the very premise of the question, suggesting that the Underhive's true trap is the belief that freedom lies elsewhere. By reshaping their perception of the Underhive, individuals might find a form of escape without ever leaving its depths. This concept is both provocative and divisive, inviting reflection on the nature of freedom and the human condition. Finally, the question of why certain escape attempts succeed while others fail remains one of the greatest enigmas. Is it purely a matter of preparation, resources, and luck, or is there something deeper at play? Some theorists speculate that success hinges on factors beyond human control, such as intervention by unknown forces or the will of the Emperor. This notion ties into the broader themes of fate and destiny within the Imperium, where even the most mundane events are often attributed to divine influence or cosmic design. These unresolved questions and theories keep the narrative of the Underhive alive, offering endless avenues for exploration and debate. They underscore the complexity of the setting and the human stories within it, ensuring that the question of escape remains as compelling as it is elusive. The long-term consequences of the Underhive and the concept of escape reach far beyond its immediate confines, influencing the structure and stability of the Imperium as a whole. The Underhive, while often overlooked or dismissed by the powers above, serves as a critical component of the Hive City's ecosystem and the larger Imperium. However, its existence also represents a stark contradiction, a society striving for unity while perpetuating division. The removal of the Underhive, or even the realization of widespread escape, would fundamentally alter the socio-political and economic dynamics of the Imperium. Without the Underhive, the entire structure of hive cities would face significant disruption. The Underhive functions as a containment zone for societal waste, both literal and metaphorical. It absorbs the discarded, the outcast, and the failed, preventing them from destabilizing the upper layers of the hive. If this system ceased to exist, these elements would have no place to go, creating pressure that would inevitably rise through the strata. Crime, rebellion, and societal unrest would spill into the mid and upper hive levels, directly threatening the stability of the elite-dominated hierarchy. The absence of such a safety valve could lead to widespread uprisings, forcing the Imperium to confront the disparities it has long ignored. On an economic level, the removal of the Underhive would dismantle a vast, unregulated economy that supports the Hive City's formal systems. The scavenged materials, illicit goods, and cheap labor extracted from the Underhive contribute significantly to the Hive's industrial output. If these resources were no longer available, the economic balance of the Hive would falter. Industries relying on this shadow economy would collapse, and the demand for legitimate resources would skyrocket, creating shortages and logistical challenges. This domino effect could extend beyond the Hive, disrupting supply chains critical to the Imperium's war efforts and planetary stability. The possibility of widespread escape or the absence of the Underhive would also profoundly impact the collective mindset of the Imperium's citizens. The Underhive serves as a grim reminder of the consequences of failure, reinforcing the rigid hierarchy that keeps the Imperium functioning. If the idea of escape became more than a distant dream, it would undermine this psychological control. Hope and ambition, while inherently positive, could inspire rebellion against the Imperium's oppressive systems. Conversely, the absence of the Underhive would remove this cautionary example, potentially leading to complacency and a loss of discipline among the lower classes. In the long term, The removal of the Underhive could foster both positive and negative outcomes, depending on how the Imperium adapts. On one hand, it might force the Imperium to confront its own inefficiencies and injustices, prompting reforms that improve the quality of life for its citizens. A more equitable distribution of resources and opportunities could lead to greater productivity and loyalty, strengthening the Imperium as a whole. On the other hand, such changes are unlikely given the Imperium's entrenched conservatism and fear of instability. The more probable scenario is a descent into chaos, as the absence of the Underhive removes a critical component of the Imperium's delicate balance. From a broader perspective, the Underhive's existence and the stories of escape have a symbolic significance that resonates throughout the Imperium. They reflect humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and capacity for hope, even in the darkest conditions. These qualities are vital to the Imperium's survival in a galaxy fraught with existential threats. If the Underhive were to disappear, these stories would lose their setting, potentially erasing a source of inspiration for countless individuals. The concept of escape, even when unsuccessful, highlights the enduring spirit of defiance that defines humanity's struggle against overwhelming odds. In terms of galactic geopolitics, the absence of the Underhive could have far-reaching implications. The Underhive serves as a crucible for conflict, a testing ground for individuals and factions alike. Many of the Imperium's most resourceful leaders, cunning strategists, and hardened warriors have roots in the Underhive, shaped by its brutal environment. Without this crucible, the Imperium might lose a critical source of such talent, weakening its ability to adapt to the ever-changing challenges of the galaxy. At the same time, the removal of the Underhive could embolden external threats, from Xenos factions to heretical movements, who might see the Imperium's restructuring as an opportunity to exploit its vulnerabilities. The potential for widespread escape raises questions about the future of the Imperium's societal model. If a significant portion of the Underhive's population were to escape and establish themselves elsewhere, it could create entirely new power dynamics. These escapees, hardened by their experiences and unbound by the Imperium's strict hierarchies, might form independent communities, rebel factions, or even rival empires. Such developments would challenge the Imperium's dominance and potentially fragment its already tenuous control over its vast territories. In conclusion, the long-term impact of the Underhive and the concept of escape underscores the precarious balance on which the Imperium rests. Whether through its continued existence, widespread escape, or eventual removal, the Underhive represents a critical element of the Imperium's structure and identity. Its influence extends far beyond the physical confines of the Hive, shaping the Imperium's economy, society, and culture in profound ways. The consequences of any significant change to this dynamic would reverberate across the galaxy, reshaping the fate of humanity itself.